Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something. How many dreams have you buried under the weight of overthinking? How many opportunities have you let slip by while you waited for the perfect time, the right answer, or the sure outcome? Overthinking is not a superpower, it's a silent killer of progress. It's the art of creating problems that don't even exist. You sit, you analyze, you loop the same thoughts until your brain is exhausted. And still nothing gets done. You imagine every possible failure. You doubt every decision. You try to predict outcomes like you're in control of everything, but guess what? Life doesn't reward the most careful thinker. It rewards the bold, the doers, the ones who try, fail, and try again. Overthinking won't give you clarity. Action does. Overthinking won't bring you peace. Acceptance does. And overthinking won't give you results. Courage does. So today, make a decision, not a perfect one, but a real one. Start, move, act, and trust yourself enough to figure it out as you go, because the cost of overthinking is the life you could have lived if you just started. Overthinking is like a mental treadmill. You feel like you're moving, but you're not going anywhere. It tricks you into believing you're being productive, when in reality, you're just stuck in a loop of self-doubt, fear, and mental noise. Think about this. How many times have you gone over a decision again and again in your mind, only to realize later that none of the worst-case scenarios you imagined ever actually happened? That job interview you feared you'd mess up, you did just fine. That message you rewrote 10 times before sending, the other person barely noticed. That fear of failure if you launched your small business. Turns out, people were actually waiting for your product. Overthinking causes emotional paralysis. You become so caught up in analyzing every possibility, every angle, every outcome that you don't move at all. And ironically, in trying to prevent failure, you end up creating it. You fail to act. You fail to start. You fail to live fully, all because of imagined problems that have no foundation in reality. What's worse, overthinking doesn't stay in one area of your life. It spreads. It turns into hesitation in your career, insecurity in your relationships, and fear in your personal growth. And the longer you allow your mind to invent false scenarios, the more those fake problems begin to feel real. You start to believe them. You start to live cautiously. You start to say no to life, even when it's saying yes to you. At its core, overthinking is fear in disguise, fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of failure. But fear magnified by imagination becomes distortion. You start reacting not to facts, but to fears, not to the present, but to predictions. You're fighting battles that haven't even started. That's the real danger of overthinking. It keeps you emotionally busy, but actually disconnected from your true potential. You're not solving anything. You're just stuck in the what-if zone, and what if is a dangerous place to live. One of the most destructive lies overthinkers believe is this: I'll start when I'm fully ready. But the truth is, nobody ever feels 100% ready. Waiting for the perfect time is often just a clever disguise for procrastination. And behind that procrastination, fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of the unknown. Let's be honest, perfection is a myth. It's a moving target. Every time you get closer to what you think is perfect, the bar moves. You learn more, see more, and suddenly, what once seemed complete now feels incomplete again. That's the trap. You spend your whole life preparing to begin, and you never do. Starting imperfectly doesn't mean starting blindly or carelessly. It means starting with what you have, where you are, with the knowledge and tools currently available to you, and adjusting as you go. Progress is born from momentum, not mastery. Think of a baby learning to walk. They don't study leg mechanics. They don't wait for someone to hand them a walking certificate. They just try, they stumble, They fall, they laugh, they get up again, and eventually they walk. Now imagine if that baby said, "Nope, I'm going to wait until I'm sure I won't fall." That child would never walk. But isn't that what we do with our goals? We think the world needs our best version before it even needs our first version. But reality is more forgiving than we assume. People don't expect perfection. They appreciate effort. They resonate with authenticity. They're inspired by someone who dares to start, flaws and all. The only way to improve is to begin. You'll never be perfectly prepared, but you will become better as you move. Experience is the best teacher, and experience only comes from action. Every rough draft brings you closer to mastery. Every failed attempt teaches you something success never could. And every imperfect beginning is a stepping stone to your future self. So instead of waiting for the stars to align your actions with your dreams and start now. Because the longer you wait to be perfect, the longer you delay your growth, your impact, and your joy. One of the biggest reasons people overthink is because they feel pressured to know everything before taking a single step. There's this false belief that before you begin, you must have every detail figured out, the perfect plan, the guaranteed outcome, the complete roadmap. But that's not how growth works. That's not how life works. The truth is, you're not supposed to have it all figured out right now. You're not a machine. You're a human being on a journey, and like all great journeys, clarity comes in motion, not in waiting. Think about GPS. It doesn't show you the entire path all at once. It gives you one turn at a time, and it only updates when you move. If you stand still, the map doesn't change. Life is the same. You don't get the full picture while standing still, analyzing every possible outcome in your head. You gain insight as you go. When you demand certainty before action, you paralyze yourself. You become trapped in mental loops that only feed your fear. But when you accept that it's okay not to know, a weight lifts off your shoulders. You give yourself permission to learn, explore, and adjust. That's where creativity and resilience are born, not in knowing, but in discovering. Some of the most successful people didn't know where they would end up when they started. They didn't wait until every question was answered. They took a leap of faith. They followed a small idea. They started with curiosity, not certainty, and the answers they needed showed up because they moved, not before they moved. If you wait to have every answer, you may wait your entire life. Growth requires uncertainty. It requires stepping into the unknown, and yes, sometimes you'll make mistakes. Sometimes you'll fail. But even failure teaches you what no amount of overthinking ever could. So instead of asking, "Do I have everything figured out?" ask, "Am I willing to learn along the way?" That shift in mindset will change everything, because life doesn't demand perfection. It demands participation. Confidence is not something you're born with, it's something you build. And the more decisions you make, the more action you take, the stronger your confidence becomes. But overthinking is like acid. It slowly eats away at that inner trust. Every time you hesitate, doubt, or delay, you chip away at your belief in your own ability to decide and move forward. Here's the problem. Overthinking creates a false sense of danger. It magnifies mistakes before they even happen. It tells you you're not ready. What if you mess up? Or what will people think? And the more you listen to that voice, the more powerless you feel. You become trapped in a cycle of second guessing, and that cycle rewires your brain to fear decision making. It convinces you that you're always one step away from disaster. Eventually, you stop trusting yourself. You become someone who looks outward for approval, constantly asking for advice, constantly unsure, constantly anxious even about the smallest things. That's what overthinking does. It turns capable people into doubtful ones. It makes you question your intelligence, your judgment, even your worth. But confidence is built in the doing. When you take a step, even a shaky one, you prove to yourself that you can handle movement, handle mistakes, handle life. You begin to trust your gut. You begin to rely on your instincts. Each decision made, no matter the result, becomes proof that you're capable. Let's be clear. It's not the mistake that damages confidence. It's the delay. It's the fear of acting. It's the days and nights you spend analyzing instead of doing. The only way to break that is to interrupt the loop. Decide faster. Act quicker. Trust more. Speak up even when your voice shakes. Make the call even if you're unsure. Send the email even if it's not perfect. Because every action you take tells your mind, I believe in myself. And every time you overthink, you tell your mind, I'm not good enough to choose. Confidence isn't built on getting it right. It's built on being brave enough to try again and again. Overthinking thrives in stillness. The longer you sit and stew in your thoughts, the more powerful those thoughts become. They swirl, multiply, and tangle until they feel too big to escape. But there's one simple force that can break that spiral every single time: action. Action is the enemy of fear. It interrupts the loop of doubt and hesitation. When you act, even in a small way, your brain shifts focus from abstract thoughts to tangible results, from imagination to experience. The very moment you do something, you take control back from your mind. You say, I'm not just going to think about this. I'm going to do something about it. Let's say you're overthinking starting a business. You've been going back and forth about the name, the website, the logo, the market. You've spent weeks, maybe months, in your head. But then one day, you just take one step. You buy the domain, you register your name, or you talk to a potential customer. Instantly, everything changes. Now you're in motion. Now you've got feedback. Now you've got momentum. That's the power of action. Action creates clarity. You learn far more by trying something than by imagining every possible outcome. You might fail, yes, but even failure gives you data. It shows you what doesn't work, so you can move closer to what does. Every move you make takes you from what if to what's next. And that transition is where confidence, creativity, and courage are born. Overthinking keeps you in your head. Action brings you into the world. And the truth is, the world doesn't reward people for what they think about doing. It rewards those who do. Remember this, you can't outthink fear. You have to outrun it, and the only way to outrun it is to move, take one step, make one call, write one page, speak one sentence. You don't have to finish everything, but you have to start. Because even the smallest action can quiet the loudest overthinking mind. One of the biggest myths we buy into is the idea that we must be certain before we act. We wait for signs, signals, and guarantees. We think, if I just knew it would work, if I just knew I wouldn't fail, then I'd do it. But life doesn't work like that. It doesn't hand out certainty. It hands out possibilities, and it's up to us to meet those possibilities with courage. Here's the truth. Certainty is an illusion. There are no guarantees in relationships, in business, in health, in dreams. No matter how much you plan or prepare, there will always be unknowns, risks, and surprises. If you spend your life waiting to feel completely sure, you'll be stuck in place, watching others move forward while you stay behind, trapped by what-ifs. Courage, on the other hand, is real. It's the ability to move forward in spite of the unknown. It's saying, I don't know exactly how this will go, but I trust myself enough to figure it out. Courage is a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. And the beautiful part, every act of courage builds a little more certainty, not in outcomes, but in yourself. When you act with courage, you stop needing life to be predictable. You start needing only one thing: the faith that you can handle whatever comes. Whether you win or lose, rise or fall, you'll learn, grow, and get better. That mindset alone will take you farther than 1,000 hours of overthinking. Let's be honest, you're never going to feel ready for the biggest moments of your life. You won't feel perfectly prepared to start the business, speak your truth, end the relationship, move to a new city, or chase your dreams. But those who win are the ones who act anyway. They don't let fear vote. They let courage lead. So if you're waiting for certainty, stop. Start developing courage instead. It's the one thing that will carry you through every storm, silence every doubt, and help you break free from the trap of overthinking for good. Time is the most valuable currency you have, not money, not status, not ideas. Time, once a moment passes, it's gone forever, and yet, overthinking quietly robs you of this priceless asset day after day. Not loudly, not dramatically, but slowly, silently, minute by minute. How many days have you spent trapped in your own head? Hours lost rethinking the same decision, analyzing the same conversation, imagining 10 different outcomes, and doing absolutely nothing in the real world. Overthinking gives the illusion that you're being productive, but in reality, you're standing still while time rushes by. You could have written that book. You could have made that phone call. You could have taken that trip. You could have launched that business, but instead, you were thinking, still thinking, always thinking. Life isn't meant to be analyzed more than it's lived. We're here to feel, to explore, to grow, to risk, to connect, not to perfect every moment before it happens. If you keep waiting for everything to make sense in your mind, you'll miss the beauty of what's already happening around you. Here's the truth. Overthinking doesn't just steal your time, it steals your life. It delays your dreams, weakens your courage, and replaces action with anxiety. And worst of all, it leaves you with a terrible cost, regret. Because one day, you'll look back not at the things you did, but the chances you never took. The days you wasted thinking instead of doing, the life you imagined but never lived. You don't need more time to think. You need more time to live. Every minute spent worrying could be a minute spent creating. Every hour of hesitation could be an hour of growth. And every day you spend doubting yourself is a day you could have spent becoming your future self. So stop giving your time to fear, to doubt, to overanalysis. Give your time to action, to progress, to experience, to living fully, not perfectly, but bravely, because life isn't waiting, and neither should you.